susunod na programa ay rated PG. Ito ay nangangailangan ng patnubay at gabay ng magulang para sa mga batang manonood.
Hamon sa seguridad, panloob at panlabas ang ating tinutukoy at yan ang ating pag-uusapan ngayon. Ano nga ba ang mga hamon ngayon sa patuloy na nagbabagong imahe ng kapulisan o ng Philippine National Police? At ano nga ba ang mga hamon pa na sabi nila ay lumalawak at lumalaki sa bahagi naman ng mga teritoryong sakop ng Pilipinas, ngunit inaangkin din ng mga kapitbahay nating bansa, partikular ng higanteng bansang China. Yan po ang ating tatalakayin ngayong gabi. Itanong, isiwalat, Ibalita. Ito ang Ibalita Online. Ako si Arlene de la Cruz. Magbabalik kami ilang saglit lamang.
In good shape. The healthy show for body and mind. From medical trends to wellness tips, a weekly dose of healthy living. In Good Shape on Net 25, every Saturday at 11:30 a.m.
Nagbabalik ang Ibalita Online. Muli pagbabalik tanaw sa naging talumpati ni Pangulong Benigno Noynoy Aquino III para sa kanyang ika-4 na State of the Nation Address. Ang naturang talumpati ay tumalakay at nagbigay ng kanyang pananaw at pagtayang sa iba't ibang sektor. Sabi nga nila, ito raw ay talumpati na hindi lamang para sa piling sektor ng ating lipunan. Marami siyang mga sektor na binanggit dito, binigyan ng pagkilala, may mga ahensya siyang pinuri, pero may mga ahensya rin siyang binigyan ng diin ang kanyang tunay na damdamin dito. Para pag-usapan po natin yan, isa sa mga ahensyang hindi nakaligtas sa pansin ng Pangulo, ang Philippine National Police. Kasama po natin ang Public Information Officer o ang tagapagsalita ngayon ng Philippine National Police na si Senior Superintendent Ruben Tudor C. Sindang. Talagang kailangan buo. Sir, good evening po.
Magandang gabi sa iyo, Arlene, at maraming salamat sa pag-imbita sa akin dito.
Nice to have you here, sir.
Yes.
Unang-una, sir, ang Pangulo natin ay ipinakita na in terms of priority and pagiging malapit sa puso niya bilang punong ehekutibo, ay ang Philippine National Police. Bagamat may pagpuna, nandun yung direksyon na pinapakitang ito'y isang sektor na kanyang pinapahalagahan. Ito po ba yung damdamin o yung mensaheng nakuha ninyo? Tama
ka, Arlene. Doon sa kanyang zona, nadama namin ang kanyang pagpapahalaga sa mas nakakaraming pulis. Ito yung mga 98% kung tawagin natin. At ang kanyang pagiging fair and just naman doon sa mga naliligaw ng landas, na yung di sumusunod sa tuwid na daan. Kaya nakikita namin to as is being just a father to the nation, as he is also a father to and commander-in-chief to the Philippine National Police.
Tama po ba ang pagtaya niya sa direksyon ng Philippine National Police? Where are we right now? Halimbawa, kung ang Philippine National Police naman ang magbabalita sa Pangulo, sa kanilang estado, ano yun? At yun ba'y na-translate ng Pangulo?
Opo, na-translate naman niya in no simple terms at nasabi niya kung ano talagang katayuan at kalagayan ng pulis noon at ngayon. At yung pupuntahan pa. Makikita to, simpleng-simple lang dun sa Glock, no, yung pag-issue ng pistol. Pinakita niya in very graphic terms yung anong estado ng pulis noon na walang baril, gumagawa ng paraan para magkabaril, tapos humahabol, nanguhuli.
At kung may baril, paltik.
Oo nga, paltik pa kung sakali, kung meron man. Yung mga sad state or sorry and sad state ng kapulisan noong araw is reflected in that simple thing which is the pistol. Yung sidearm na bilang simbolo ng pulis. Alam niyo naman, ang simbolo ng pulis, di ba, tsapa, siyempre, yung kanyang uniforme, plus yung baton, kung may kailangan ng baton, at yung siyempre, yung kanyang armas, yung gagamitin niya sa pagsupil ng kasamaan. Yun nga, isipin mo, yung noon, ganun ang sitwasyon. Tapos yung ngayon, yung sinabi nga niya na halos 70%, nasa 70% na kami ng fill up ng 1:1 police to gun ratio.
Pero iba po yung pagkakaroon ng armas, iba rin yung kasanayan. Naalala ko kamakailan lang, nagkaroon ng parang test, di ba?
Opo.
Or months back na parang yung proficiency, marksmanship ng mga kapulisan. Kasunod din po ba yun?
Opo, hindi, actually, nauna pa yun.
Nauna pa?
Oo, kasi nung nasa drawing board na yung pag-i-issue ng Glock, inano na rin, sinabay na rin ang pagsasanay. Ang ibig sabihin nito, para magkaroon ka ng Glock, bukod pa sa wala kang baril, dapat kang mag-possess ng baril na yun. Nagkaroon ng training, after the training, merong proficiency exam. Pag hindi ka pumasa doon, hindi ka bibigyan muna ng baril. Retake ka na naman ulit. So, tuloy-tuloy ho yun. And aside from that, nagkaroon din ng orientation seminar nung pag-maintain at pag-aalaga nung darating na pistol, yung Glock 17 Generation 4 nga.
Sinasabi niyo yung baril, yung sidearms ng pulis, isa sa simbolo ng kanyang otoridad
Opo.
bilang, sabi nga natin sa pulis, di ba, may kapangyarihan.
Tama, Arlene.
Kapangyarihan over the civilian authority. No? But anyway, maraming pulis, you and I, sir, know this, na nakatira sa mga squatter areas. Ito ba'y isang bagay na inilapit nyo na rin sa Pangulo? Although may
Opo.
mga housing projects
Yes,
before.
iniulat niya ng Pangulo nung sa SONA. Sinabi niya yung marami libo-libong housing projects na nakalaan, natapos at nakalaan pa at darating pa para sa kapulisan at kasundaluhan pa nga. So, ito'y maaayos din sa tamang panahon.
Kasi ito'y pagtaas din ng kanilang dignidad.
Opo, siyempre.
Kasi magkatambal yun, sir, di ba? Ang sinasabi nila, kaya raw yung ibang pulis, papunta na ako doon sa iilan na kanyang pinuna. Kaya nauuwi sa ganong mga direksyon, yung sila ay natutokso sa mga sindikato, malalaking pera at ibang mga illegal na pamamaraan, ay dahil sa yung kanila raw kondisyon ng pamumuhay, yun ba ang talagang nagiging batayan kung bakit nauuwi sa ganon ng ilan? O it's just a matter of attitude and pagtingin sa kanilang kanilang
Unang-una,
uniforme?
siyempre, papasok tayo dyan sa character, di ba? Yung character building niya, kung anong nangyari nung nakaraan at nung nagsanay siya para sa pagiging pulis. At nakakadagdag na lang yung sitwasyon niya sa buhay, yung kanyang social status, yung kunyari, yun nga, na mababa ang antas ng kanyang pamumuhay, dumadami ang kanyang basic, hindi niya matugunan yung basic needs niya. At of course, doon siya nanghihina at nagiging mas prone sa tukso or nasisilaw siya sa mga tukso na hinihahain sa harapan niya. Mas madali siyang masilaw pagka ganun nga ang sitwasyon. Subalit, tinutugunan to sa aming moral recovery program, sa transformation plan namin na talagang tinututukan lahat-lahat ng aspeto ng aming tungkulin.
Binanggit natin yung iilan na kanyang pinupuna at itong Osamis Gang. Alam ko na ongoing pa ang investigation dyan at hinihintay pa natin ang sasabihin ng DILG. But sir, ito
Meron
ay...
na.
Oh, meron na.
Yes, yun ang maganda kong ibalita. That was in yesterday's press con. Ibinalita na ng ating kagalang-galang Secretary Mar Rojas ang pag-file ng kaso sa mga na-involved doon sa pagpaslang ng leaders ng Osamis Gang, si Ricky Cadavero at saka si Wilfreda Panagolinga, na siya, di ba, siya ay parang pinatay, hindi siya
Summary
na-accident.
executed.
Parang gano'n ang nangyari. So ito'y pinahayag na ng ating DILG Secretary at sinabi nga niya na lumabas na parang rub out nga ang nangyari. Bunsod dito, nag-file ng murder charges sa dalawang opisyal, si Senior Inspector Magat at si Inspector Oco, at iba-ibang charges pa doon sa mga kasama nilang 16 silang lahat.
Again, ang nasa sentro ng kontrobersyang yan ay mga kapulisan sa Southern Luzon, sa Philippine National Police ng Southern Tagalog. At ito ay hindi unang pagkakataon.
Yes.
Meron pang nauna yung Atimonan Quezon case.
Yes.
What is so peculiar or should I say special about the area? Bakit parang prone sa ganitong uring pagsabit ang mga pulis?
Natalakay na rin to sa ilang mga usapin na yan yung ni Chief PNP Police Director General Alan Purisima, na titingnan nila at susuriin kung anong meron sa Region 4 Calabar Zone na marahil baka yun ay it's a cultural thing, it's a clique, or baka meron silang clique doon na kailangan buwagin din.
O baka naghanap ng sindikato?
O maari din. Siguro doon nag-harbor ang sindikato. Pero hindi mo rin pwedeng sabihin dahil may mga sindikato rin sa Manila, may sindikato rin sa... Pero yung pamamaraan nila siguro kailangan i-review, i-revisa. pag-aralan kung anong nagkakaroon doon, anong meron sa kakaiba sa Region 4A. I was assigned there, if I may tell you, at nakita ko rin naman may sarili din silang kultura doon. Iba sa nung na-assign din ako sa Region 5.
Hindi po natin nililabel ang rehiyon o mga
Hindi
residente
naman, hindi
ron,
naman.
kundi
Pero
yung
normal na.
organisasyon na naroon.
Opo, hindi yung PNP unit kasi po is a mirror of what is there, di ba ho? Bawat rehiyon naman ng Pilipinas ay tanggap naman natin na may kanya-kanyang uniqueness, may kanya-kanyang peculiarities. So, marahil baka isa 'yon sa nakakadagdag o nakakontribute doon sa mga pangyayaring lately na napapabalita sa ating mamamayan.
Sabi niyo ito'y natalakay na in the past. Ano yung mga puntos na nakita na maaring magpaliwanag kung magbigay sa atin ng pangunawa will lead us to an understanding what is wrong?
Hindi, inaano pa lang,
It's in
pinag-aaralan
the
pa lang.
process.
It's still in the process, pinusuri pa lang. Yun nga, ang isang ine-examine din, baka yung culture sa lugar, diba? Yung peculiarities ng lugar, yung idiosyncrasies and whatever meron doon. And then, of course, yung the PNP unit mismo, baka nagkaroon na ng konting tradisyon, nagkaroon ng sariling mores, di ba? Nung meron silang mga sarili nilang mga nakagawian.
Kapapalit pa lang ng regional director.
Yes, pero that is only one eh. Pero yung the whole body ang tingnan natin, siyempre.
So, sistema
Baka
siya.
sistema, pwede. So, like I said, these things are being factored in. Lahat ito ipinapasok sa pagsusuring ginagawa na ngayon sa PNP.
Ito yung isang rehiyon lamang. What about the rest of the region? Wala po tayong nakikitang ganung problema na maaring kaya lang napapansin dahil nandito sa malapit sa Metro Manila.
Sa malalayo, wala naman. Pero kahit na may mga nangyayari din doon. Pero yung pag-aaral naman kasi hindi lang naman nakatuon sa 4A, for Region 4 Calabar Zone. Ang pag-aaral sa lahat ng regions, kung anong mga dapat i-implement na pagbabago pa sa leadership, sa training, siyempre sa moral development nila at upliftment, siyempre lahat yan pinapasok. Hindi yung parang sinisingle out lang yung Region 4A.
Meron pang isa na napansin of late, yung involvement ng mga batang mga pulis. I'm sure this is one thing that is being discussed in
Yes.
in studying kung
Yan
ano
po,
talaga
yung mga-
yung reason na ito.
yes.
Ano yung natutumbok nyo rito?
Wala
Bakit
pa naman.
parang pumasok ka ng pulis, ang mindset mo kumita, dumiskarte. Yun ang lumalabas doon sa iilan lang naman na nadadawit dito. Ito po ba'y nakita nyo?
Isa yon siguro. May mga, isa yon pero marami ho dapat tayong suriin dyan, pag-aralan at isipin na hindi lang naman yon dahil ito naman ay exceptional few Yung mga sinasabi yung pagpasok, kumita, dumiskarte, hindi sila reflection ng kabuuan ng kapulisan.
Totoo po yan.
Alam nyo naman na maipamulat ko lang sa ating mga nanonood ngayon na mga 148,000 ang kapulisan. Kahit kunin mo sa 1% yon, that is about 1,400. Malaki kung titingnan mo sa numero, pero sa kabuuan, maliit. Dahil halos 98-99% lang po yun. Yun. So, makikita nyo, yung tendency na mga ganun, maaring nasa pagpasok pa lang nila. Na siyang tinutuwid naman ngayon ng current leadership natin, pati na rin yung administration, from Secretary Mar Rojas down to Chief PNP, marami na silang pinapasok na innovation. Kasi nga, isa to siguro ang natutumbok, yung tinatanong mo nga, no? So, natutumbok nila, baka sa recruitment pa lang, nai-instill na yung ganong drive. Kasi mayroon ka agad, parang babawi ka agad sa puhunan. Di ba ho?
Lagayan para makapasok.
Yun. Mayroon naman siguro, baka, siyempre, padrino system. So, kailangan na naman may ipiplease. Kaya pag inutos ng kanyang principal, baka naman doon na siya kaagad pumanig. So, knowing some of these inputs, ang ginawa na lang ng pamuno ng PNP, una-una, yung pinopost ni Secretary Mar Rojas, napakaganda nun. Yung siguro, at the point ng everybody is qualified na, yung i-recommend, i-draw lots, yung tambiolong sinasabi niya, para bubunutin, para hindi na nasa whims or caprice ng mayor o ng chief police. Wala nang ninong, di ba? So, isa yon sa pinag-aaralan. Pangalawa, itong mas malapit na sa katotohanan at pinag-aaralan, bagamat pinag-aaralan pa din, yung i-outsource ang recruitment. Yun ang pinakamaganda sa mga, kung maisa sa katuparan. Outsource. Like,
parang ano, may...
Kukuha yung Human Resource Agency.
Human Resource Agency.
Oo, maganda yun. Hire kaya, may contract, may MOA. And then, kailangan namin ng ano. So, kunyari, we need 2,000 recruits. Okay nang bahala. Kayong magse-search.
Wala ba yung
kayong
magiging
mag-screen.
paglabag sa civil service? Ano?
Yun nga, kaya kailangan pag-aralan, Arlene. Kasi tinitingnan naman namin yung legal aspects. Pero lately kasi, kung tama ang basa ko, parang may konting, may linaw na. May konting
Na
linaw
pwede niyong gawin yun.
parang walang mababiolate na civil service or even internal audit, COA rules and regulations.
Paano naman silang maliligtas sakaling ito ipatupad doon sa sistema na may padrino at palakasan din? Kung
Kasi-
ito ay independent or private sector.
Kasi objective sila eh. Kasi itong agency, whoever or whatever that will be, na maha-hire namin, will also always have that collateral. And then, na pag hindi sila nakadeliver ng tama at maayos, pwede silang tanggalin. Ngayon, kung ikaw ang isang honest businessman who wants to make a good name in the industry,
Recruitment.
kunyari, meron na siyang pangalan dati, mas lalo na. Kung yung recruitment or hiring agency na yan has a name already na dapat niyang pangalagaan, hindi niya gagawin yun. Makakasiguro tayo na sisikapin niya na pangalagaan ang kanyang magandang pangalan, hindi siya papayag na may manghihimasok kahit sino man. Mahirap kasi sa organisasyon natin ngayon. In fact, di ba may isang organisasyon tayong pinag-uusapan kanina. Ganon din ang kanilang problema. Di ba maraming nanghihimasok na matataas na opisyal kaya hindi nila maisagawa ang reorganization nila. Sa PNP, may ganon din. Di ba? Yung medyo may ilalapit na hindi mo mahindian. Subalit,
Nakapwesto kasi.
opo, mga ganon. Kahit hindi nakapwesto actually. Basta,
O retired. Mas, minsan, ang impluensya ng retired na
malakas
police
pa rin
officer,
naman.
iba.
Malakas din ang impluensya ng retired dahil mga iba sa amin at mga kasamahan ko rin. At kami, di ba, may tendency na one way or another, parang may pinagkautangan ka ng loob sa mga retired. At itong trait naman to hindi naman unique lang sa PNP. Sa Pilipino naman kasi to, di ba? Kunwari, meron ka pinagkautangan ng loob, di siyempre, minsan, kailangan pagbibigyan mo.
Babawi ka rin.
Opo. Ngayon, ang mahirap dito ay, siyempre, naapektuhan naman yung quality or standards ng recruitment. Samantalang, pagka ang kinuha mo is an independent human resource agency, hindi ka pwede makiusap dahil hindi nila kilala eh. Wala silang pinagkakautangan na loob. Wala silang dapat sinuhin, di ba? Wala silang ang sisinuhin lang nila siyempre yung pinaka-head na nag-hire at yung kanilang pangalan na pinangangalagaan.
Ang pangangailangan ng Philippine National Police o ng police na magkaroon ng sabihin na nating bagong imahe o patuloy na nagbabagong imahe sa publiko ay sabi nila, nagre-reflect dun sa pati uniforme nyo, gusto nyong palitan, di ba?
Tama yan.
What about the uniform? What's wrong with the current uniform?
Okay, ito ang hindi kasi, nagkulang kami siguro sa information campaign sa uniform, kaya maraming batikos ang inabot eh. Pero actually, Arlene, ito ay produkto ng isang survey wherein halos 70% ng kapulisan ay nag-participate. So, nag-conduct ng survey, yung uniform na ba yan ay maayos, kung ito ba'y functional sa iyo. So, doon nila nilagay. Lumabas po sa survey halos 60% of the sampling, which is about 60,000 of the police force or 70,000, halos one-third to, no? Di ba nga, yung mga ating sikat na survey companies, konting sampling, di ba? Konting tao lang kinuha talaga namin, bulto.
Per region.
Oo, per region, talagang pinasagot namin ng survey. Kasi namin na panahon ng baguhin.
Ayaw na nila yan. Ayaw na nilang
Yung
kulay.
certain uniforms lang naman ang parang hindi na akma sa panahon eh. Una-una yung pinaka-paborito nating gowa, yung nakikita nyo araw-araw. Yung tela nun makapal, mainit, madaling mangupas, di ba? Tapos yung mga nakasabit dito, pag nanghabol ka na ng kriminal o di kaya na-involve ka sa CDM, yung pang nagiging problema mo kasi naglalaglagan, natatanggal. Ito, pwede pang gamitin ng panghablot, di ba? Panghatak sa'yo. So, inaano nila, pinag-aaralan nila lahat ng pati mga accessories ng uniforme.
So ito pala yung input ng kapulisan.
Yes,
Oo.
yun
Hindi
ang-
ito yung parang nag-fashion show lang yung mga iba't ibang designer.
Darating
Hindi
tayo
yan.
dyan. Siyempre, darating tayo dyan. Kasi ang akala nila parang spur of the moment idea na, uy, type kong palitan yung parang 'di ba, yung chief type kong palitan yung uniforme. Tapos palitan nga natin, hindi ganoon yun
Kumbaga parang
pinag-aralan.
gaganda ba ang image kung magbabago ang uniforme? Parang gano'n eh.
Oh, yes,
di ba?
in fact, hindi nga image ang pinag-uusapan dito na yun din
Functionality.
Yes, functionality, comfort, at saka yung presentability. Yun ang hinahabol doon. Kasi nung time nung dinesign yung uniforming yun, that was like 17 years ago. Diba, kahit naman sa kahit anong organization, nagbabago kahit ang armed forces, nagbabago din sila ng uniforme. Una-una, mas mainit ngayon ang mainit. Diba? Ang summers natin are hotter, are rainy...
Longer.
O, di ba ho? Di siyempre, naghahanap kami ng fabric na mas akma sa mga panahon ngayon. Naghahanap din kami ng fabric na mas madaling i-maintain, yung hindi nangungupas. Sa mga accessories naman, parang mas gusto nila medyo nakaburda na para wala nang tanggalan, wala nang taguan ng nameplate pag may ginagawang kalokohan, di ba? Ngayon, na-desire ng PNP, since there's this clamor for a change in uniform, why not involve the community at large? Ba't hindi natin sinali na rin lang tayo, nag-survey na rin lang tayo eh. Ba't hindi natin sali sila para hindi lang pulis ang magiging proud sa uniform nila, kundi pati yung community, ikakarangal din nila yung mga pulis nila. Yun ang naging simula nung fashion show. Kaya i-fashion show para inopen sa media, inopen sa stakeholders, inopen pati sa internet, pwede kang mag-vote sa internet para we could get the best and the most number of opinions para makita natin. Para lahat sila, pagka nakita nila, pulis namin yan, di ba? Pulis yan.
At kung magbabago ng uniforme ang pulis, nakatitiyak kayo na ito yung uniforme na gusto ng mismong pulis.
Yes. Number one, gusto ng mismong pulis at ikararangal naman ng kanilang kababayan. Yun ang importante doon. Kaya nga inopen sa public. Yun nga lang, siyempre, when you open something to public, it is also open to criticism. Kaya yun siguro ang nagkulang lang kami sa information campaign or information drive na
Kung bakit kayo
nagkakandak ng ganon. Itinutuwid na namin yun. May parating na Capwalk 2, yung second kasi hindi nga naging sapat yung mga naging inputs dahil kulang nga sa information drive, kulang din yung nagbigay ng inputs. So we will be expanding it some more dito sa darating na Capwalk 2 sometime in October.
Nung SONA, merong isang pulis na umagaw ng atensyon ng marami. This is the crying policeman.
Okay, that is good.
Ito yung
Good
sabi
question.
nila yung sumisimbolo sa karaniwang pulis, kung paano sila tumutugon sa sinasabi nyo kanina, yung Civil Disturbance Management,
Yes.
CDM, na nakita natin sa tuwing may SONA.
Totoo
Habang nagsasalita ang Pangulo, ito yung mukha ng pulis. Ilan ang katulad niya?
Marami yan although they are trained to be hard as stone, yun ay mga tao rin. May puso't damdamin. Hindi yan mga pusong bato kung sa kanta nga. Yan ay may mga puso't damdamin na nakakaramdam din. Kaya minsan, pagka hindi na nila mapigilan, siguro katulad nung kay Sibilya, PO1 Sibilya ang pangalan niya, ay hindi na niya napigilan yung ma-translate to tears ang kanyang nararamdaman.
Although sinasabi niya, pagod at gutom yun. Hindi ba
Oo,
ibig sabihin
yun na.
pinabayaan sila?
Hindi naman. Kompleto po ang kanilang messing requirements. Lahat po Pero normal yung pagod. We will admit to the pagod. Pero yung gutom, I doubt if Kasi they will have been properly provided for. Siguro naging na lang niya, bigkas na lang yung bitiw lang ng bibig niya, yung pagod at gutom. Pero more than that is makikita mo, yung isang ordinaryong pulis na wag lang makasakit ng kapwa niyang Pilipino, kahit foreigner pa.
May pamilya rin siya.
May pamilya rin.
Kumbaga, meron din siyang tama kayo doon, may damdamin siya.
Niya. May damdamin siya na iniisip niya. Talagang pigil na lang lahat naghihimutok mo kung ano man nangyayari doon sa kalooban niya, talagang sinasarili lang niya.
Ang Pangulo nagulat sa bayan, pahapyaw na nagalaw niya ang kapulisan. Pero kayo, kung kayo magulat sa bayan, sa maikling pananalita, nasaan tayo ngayon?
Ang ating police is on a higher moral. Sabi nga nila, di ba, uso yung word na high moral. Ngayon, higher moral. Kasi...
level up, higher moral.
Level up kami ngayon. We have the support of the national government at nararamdaman pa. At we have also a transformation plan that is in place. It is even amplified by the strategic focus of our Chief PNP, Code P. That's, of course, for competence, organizational development, discipline, excellence, and professionalism. That is for 2013 and beyond. And patuloy pa yung mga mas maliliit pang programa na mas damang-dama pa ng mga tao at kapulisan ngayon. Yun, after the guns, kasunod naman siyempre yung mga patrol cars, yung uniform, at saka yung tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung ano namin, yung cascading, yung transformation plan namin na ibig sabihin, habang nagbabago, naghahanap kami ng bagong uniform, nagbabago din yung kalooban. At hopefully, siyempre, aabutin din ng gugugol din ng panahon ng pagbabago ng uniform. Hindi naman agad-agara maibabago yun. Kasi a-approvean pa ng NAPOLCOM yun, Arlene. Hindi rin basta-basta maisasatupad yun. Habang nangyayari lahat to, ito naman ay patuloy pa na nangyayari yung moral upliftment, lahat. So, tapos pabahay pa, and all those, a lot of benefits. Including improving our basic skills, yung proficiency namin sa talaga naming sinumpa ang tungkulin, which is policing, di ba? Going to that, Arlene, nakita mo, merong move ngayon na binanggit din ng Pangulo. Actually, I think 5 instances na nabanggit ang PNP, mga iba indirectly. Yung pag-hire ng civilian employees, tawag namin non-uniform personnel. This will be about 15,000 to 30,000 para palitan yung mga pulis na nag-ano ng mga clerical jobs, yung mga para mas lalong madama ng ating taong bayan ang mga kapulisan sa lansangan, di ba? Yun talaga parang yung pulis, trabahong pulis talaga ang gagawin niya. Kaya this will also avoid them from the temptation, insulate them from the temptation of corruption, usually associated with the frontline desk, di ba? Yung pagkukuha ka ng clearance, pagkukuha ka ng lisensya, di ba? Pulis yung pang nagmaman. Pag civilian, medyo baka mabawas-bawasan na yon.
Mukhang marami talaga nangyayari ngayong pagbabago sa
Opo.
Philippine National Police. At marami pong salamat sa inyong panahon, sir.
Maraming, the pleasure is ours.
Hindi ito ang unang pagkakataon.
Salamat po sa pagkakataon naman din na sa pagbibigay para maiulat naman namin sa bayan kung anong nangyayari sa kanilang kapulisan.
Si Senior Superintendent Ruben Tudor C. Sindak po ang ating nakasama. Siya po ang hepe ng Public Information Office ng Philippine National Police. Ang Ibalita Online ay magbabalik ng saglit lamang. Nagbabalik ang Ibalita Online. Isa sa mga balita na tinututukan ngayon ay itong pagkakabuo ng isang grupo na tinatawag na West Philippine Sea Coalition. Ito ay binubuo ng mga individual mula sa masasabi nating pribadong sektor. Bagamat marami sa kanila ay nagkaroon din ng kaugnayan sa pamahalaan sa mga nakalipas na panahon. At isa dyan sa mga convener nila yung mga kasama natin ngayon at siya ay dating kalihim ng Interior and Local Government o DILG, si Secretary Rafael Alunan. Secretary, good evening po sa inyo.
Hi, good evening, Arlene.
Unang-una po, salamat po at napaunlakan niyo kami.
Well, thank you for inviting.
Yung West Philippine Sea Coalition, inaasahan na ang gobyerno magbibigay ng kanilang paninindigan dito, no? Pero ito, this is practically a private sector initiative. What led you in your decision to form this group?
Well, let me give you a background. I have a Facebook friend by the name of Nick Sotelo. He's the son of retired General Sotelo, who led a flight of helicopters that defected to the Philippine side, the Philippine government, in February 1986. They broke away from Marcos and then landed in Camp Crame to join the rebels. That's how I got to know General Sotelo and Nick at a later time, and actually via Facebook. Now, we have something in common. Nick wore the uniform once. He belongs to the Air Force. I wore the uniform once. I belong to the Army. And
As a reserve officer?
As a reserve officer. And I also have institutional knowledge about what's been happening in the West Philippine Sea from the time that I was at the Department of Interior and Local Government. Kasi at that time, in 1995, doon nag-umpisa yung
Mischief Reef.
yung incursion ng China sa Mischief Reef, and where they put up a temporary shelter kuno for their fishermen. Subsequently, in later years, that temporary shelter turned out to be a permanent military structure which is heavily fortified.
It's still there.
It's still there, and the incursions started to accelerate in the past 2 to 3 years, particularly in Panatag, and now lately in Ayungin. The thing that caught everybody's attention and started getting our blood boiling was the way China was pushing its weight around in Panatag. Panatag is clearly our territory, but they've been claiming to their own people that Panatag is theirs and that we are the encroachers and we are the territorial grabbers.
Ilagay lang po natin sa
So,
konteksto, ang Panatag is the Masinloc side, in Zambales side.
Panatag is called Scarborough or Bajo de Masinloc.
Bajo de Masinloc.
Yes. So, tatlong pangalan yun eh. And so, I've been observing this at tumataas yung aking alta presyon dyan, ang ating presyon, at saka yung frustration. And then one time, as we were exchanging notes on Facebook, sabi namin ni Nick, why don't we form a group of people who used to wear the uniform, and let's do something about this, let's protest. And somehow that idea snowballed sa Facebook. Sumali na rin si Roy Goles. He's in fact a co-convener
Who also wore the uniform in the
He
past
was
as
a
a cadet.
Navy. He was a naval officer. He was a graduate of Annapolis and a former national security advisor. So Roy has also, in fact, a lot more experience and institutional knowledge about what's happening in the West Philippine Sea, particularly in the Spratlys. No?
So sir, itong movement na ito, coalition ito,
So,
this is
ang
born
nangyari-
out of frustration.
Well, anger also. Anger na ang lumalabas we are stealing our own territory. No? Hindi naman tama yun. And then each time that we would protest peacefully and diplomatically, binabanatan tayo ng China and threatening war and counter-strike. No? Para bang, ang sabi nga namin, sinisipa tayo sa paa, pagkatapos pag nagalit tayo or we rise up in protest, sila pang galit. No? Sila na nga sumisipa, sila pang galit.
In fact, we're the ones being referred to as bullies.
We're the ones that, we're being,
Troublemakers.
we're being referred to as troublemakers. No? And China will say, we will never resort to violence. No? In effect, what they're saying is, we will not go to war against ourselves kasi we own that area. So if anybody goes to war, it will be the Philippines. Binabaliktad nila yung istorya. So kami, sabi namin, hindi naman tama yun. So let's do something and rise up in protest. That idea snowballed sa Facebook. Now, when I was in the States with FBR, doing a roadshow on a book and a documentary that we worked on together, we chanced upon the group of the U.S. Pinoys for Good Government who were going to protest before the UN in New York on July 24. And I said, and I told myself, that's a very good date for us here in the Philippines to hold that protest rally that we are thinking of. Una-una, it will show that Filipinos are in solidarity. And secondly, July 24 is very significant because that was the day last year that China put up Sanxia City in Hainan. At itong Sanxia na ito is supposed to administer the islands and reefs that they claim in the South China Sea, including the West Philippine Sea, which is basically trying to legalize a land grab. No? And so we said, okay, July 24 is good, so let's have a big one here in the Philippines, considering that this is ground zero. Okay, this is where the action is. And so there was this simultaneous effort and spontaneous effort in various parts of the world to hold this protest rally on July 24. This morning, I was receiving already videos and pictures of rallies that took place in Rome, in New York, and in San Francisco. And I'm sure during the rest of the day...
You coordinated all these...
No. These are
rallies?
all independent actions, and that's the beautiful part about it. These are all independent actions, and what I love about the whole
Via
idea
Facebook lang yan, ha?
is that Filipinos are taking leadership and taking responsibility in their own areas. And which only shows one thing. This is not orchestrated by anybody.
Correct.
China has really pushed the Filipino to the wall to the point that he is now protesting wherever he is in the world.
But China is a very big country. Anong epekto nito sa kanya?
Well, it's like this. You have to look at it from two parts. There's the government, which has this policy of annexing the South China Sea. That's why they have the 9-dash line. Basically, mapping out their territory, saying, amin ito. No? And they have no basis whatsoever to claim that. That's the reason why we brought them to ITLOS. Okay? The other is the Chinese people. Okay? As we understand it, ang gulong ngayon sa China. There's a lot of internal strife because the central government and the local governments have not been able to really deliver the promises of the peaceful rise to entire China. Only about 20% of the population have benefited from it. The 80% have not, and they are every day there is a lot of civil strife, even riots, no. And the hawks in China, among the policymakers, want to divert the attention of the people away from all of this gulo that's taking place, which is why they're using the war card. They're now calling the Philippines troublemakers. They're saying that Vietnam and the Philippines and other people, including the U.S., are ganging up on them. So,
you mentioned the U.S., sir. No? If I
so
may-
that's the reason why they've decided to use war as a means of distracting the people away from their problems to focus on an external problem, which the Chinese government is creating.
You mentioned the United States. Some are saying that the real opponent here, if this is a war, the real war is between China and the United States. Are you in agreement with that?
Yes, that is my own personal assessment because China wants to be the next superpower. The U.S. is the only superpower. China has declared the South China Sea as its core interest. Pag sinabi nilang core interest,
Ilalaban nila yan.
ipaglaban talaga nila yan. Kagayong Tibet. They declared it a core interest and they took over Tibet. Di ba?
When you go back to history, ganun ang linya nila.
Ganon ang linya nila. No? Now, the U.S. has also declared that as a superpower, they must have unfettered access to all oceans of the world. That is a core interest. No? So, kung pipigilan sila sa South China Sea, magka-clash talaga yung mga core interest nila doon. And at some point, pag hindi nila nalagaan ng mabuti ito at napag-usapan sa diplomatic arena at nagkaayusan doon, at some point, there'll be a clash of arms. No? And that's what worries us because the whole world will be affected. We will be affected. So when we went on our protest the other day, we told the Chinese, we come here in peace. We come here to try to reason to you. No? Una-una, you belong to the UN Security Council. Okay, you have a permanent seat in the Security Council. You should not be heightening
You
tensions
should
and
not be
insecurities.
instigating tension.
You should not be, you should not be heightening tensions and insecurities in the region. You know, as a responsible member of the Security Council. So we said, we also said, we don't have a quarrel with the Chinese people, because our history with China goes back a long way before Magellan came to the Philippines. And we've had a long history of friendship and trading, no? It's only in the last 20 years that things have soured, where China decided to discard its peaceful rise policy and started getting aggressive. I think that goes hand in hand also with their economic rise. I remember in 1988, I attended a conference in Washington where China unveiled its 50-year plan to become a superpower. And they said that they were going to use technology to bring them to that point. And they're almost there. And they've invested a lot in technology, which is why in the area, for example, of cyber warfare, which is heavily technical, highly technical, and dependent on advanced technologies. China seems to, in fact, be at par with the U.S. On that score, no? And then their industrialization, their modernization was brought about by their heavy investments in technology. So the desire of China to be a military power goes hand in hand with its rise as an economic power.
And a policy that was mentioned very clearly as far as way back as 1988, as far back as 1988,
Yes.
In your recollection. Pero sir, gusto kong balikan yung binanggit nyo kanina. You're frustrated, you're angry. Ang direction ba ng frustration na yon at ang galit na yon ay sa China lamang? Wala bang nakadirekta o nakatuon sa ating sariling pamahalaan at sa ating mga pulisiya o kakulangan ng pulisiya pagdating sa mga usaping yan? Yung sagot niyo po dyan sa pagbabalik ng Ibalita Online, kausap po natin ang dati pong kalihim ng Interior and Local Government Secretary Rafi Alunan. Magbabalik po kami.
Dropout sa school at third-rate boxer. Wala akong makitang nakakatuwa sa kanya. Nakakainis pang kausap. Actually, kunopya ko lang yan sa Journal of the Math Society sa library. Kaya hindi ko naman talaga naiintindihan eh. Sorry po, sir.
Bilang kapalit, kumanta ka.
Sir, kakanta ako?
Sige lang, maaabutan din kita!
Stop Bullying, ito ang slogan ng isang grupo na tinatawag ng West Philippine Sea Coalition. At ito, sa paliwanag kanina, ay grupo na nabuo lamang out of anger and frustration at sila nagkita-kita, mga Facebook friends. Pero nagkataon, sila yung mga dating may kaugnayan o katungkulan sa pamahalaan. At kasama nga po natin ngayon ang dating kalihim ng Interior and Local Government, Secretary Rafi Alunan. Secretary, I was asking you kanina before the gap na, you said meron kayong, you felt frustrated. And you're angry about the situation in the West Philippine Sea. Saan nakatuon yung galit na yun at frustration na yun o pagkabigo? Sa China lamang, sa ginagawa nila, o sa ating pamahalaan dahil sa sinasabing tila kakulangan ng pulisiya as far as the West Philippine Sea is concerned and other related matter?
Well, let me say this, no? The loss of our reefs and shoals or loss of control, halimbawa doon sa Mischief at saka sa Baho de Masinloc, would not have happened had we had in place a Navy and an Air Force capable of defending our EEZ and our territorial integrity, no? Kasi in 1991, the U.S. bases decided to, were terminated by the Senate, and they left. And nawala yung security umbrella natin, pati yung access to defense equipment. And so the government, regardless of the administration, the government was put on notice to upgrade the armed forces to be able to precisely defend our territorial integrity. But for so long, we were so focused on internal security operations that our policymakers failed to give importance to external defense or territorial defense. Until ito na nga nangyari with China. And it took, in fact, a long time for the government to really give importance to territorial defense until now. It's only now.
And you are referring to several administrations, not just this administration.
Yes, actually, we took cognizance of it during our time with President Ramos. And there were two very important laws that I think were integral to the professionalization and modernization of the armed forces. No, one was the BOT law, because at some point it was important also for our defense equipment to be manufactured here locally. And the other was the conversion of the of Fort Bonifacio, no, and the creation of the basis conversion. BCDA, no, the Basis Conversion Development Authority. The sale of which the proceeds of such sales would be used for modernization and professionalization. All right. Now, of course, passing laws takes a while. All right, you have to draft the bill. It has to be deliberated upon. Then you have to determine which of the priority bills will be given top priority, etc. Until such time that it's deliberated and signed into law, approved in the lower house, upper house, and then bicameral committee, and then signed into law. That takes time. People don't understand that. Right? That's number one. But before those laws were addressed, when President Ramos came into power, there was no power. Literally, we were suffering brownouts.
I remember
you
those
remember
years.
that, right? And it took him about a year to wrestle that problem, wrestle down that problem. So things started moving in 1993, right? By the time the laws were passed, it was about 1995, 1996.
And the Chinese are already in mischief.
But by that time, the Chinese were taking advantage of the fact that we didn't have anything out there. All right, so what kind of neighbor is that, right? Taking advantage of a weak neighbor. But that's how it goes. Ganon talaga yon. The strong always get, the weak always get stepped on by the strong. Now, in 1997, tinamaan tayo ng Asian financial crisis. So whatever we had in place to get the ball rolling, medyo got stopped dead on the water, no?
You're saying, sir, it was never sustained. The efforts or the cognizance during the time of the Ramos
We laid the
administration.
foundations, but we could not start the process because we were impacted by the Asian financial
Pero
crisis.
pwede sana ng susunod na administrasyon. Kung yung mga
Yes.
sumunod, pwede sanang sinalo.
Correct. Kasi by the time na lumipas na yung effects ng Asian financial crisis, it was already succeeding administrations. But from 1998 to 2010, walang nangyari. No? Walang nangyari significantly. It's only now that this administration is trying to make up for lost time. No? But it comes at a time when the Chinese is already at our gates and they're already occupying parts of our exclusive economic zone. So it behooves this government to accelerate the process of procurement, particularly for our Navy and our Air Force, so that we could effectively protect our EEZ. Alam mo, all it needs is for somebody, for example, to calculate how much do we lose every year sa exclusive economic zone from all of the poaching, from all of the destruction of our natural resources there, no? And future control of our oil and gas that are
in place.
That are in place, no? And then compare that to the investment that they will make in the acquisition of naval and Air Force equipment to protect that, no? The return on investment will be very quick.
Pero may pagkukunan ba tayo ng pera?
Meron. It's a question of getting our financial experts together to think things through, because there are so many models that can be used that are working elsewhere that we can adopt in our country. But I don't know why it hasn't happened. No, this must be placed at the top of the national security agenda. Kasi protecting our EEZ is national security.
Good that you mentioned that, Secretary. Kasi ang Pangulo, in his State of the Nation address, sa kanyang ika-4, maraming nasabi na very silent siya about the West Philippines. Although in his last SONA, very clear ang sinabi niya na ang lahat ng teritoryong sa Pilipinas ay para sa Pilipino, kung ipaglalaban ng Pilipino. Pero not on his fourth zona. Ano ang sa tingin niyo dapat binanggit niya? Dapat ba binanggit niya ang tungkol sa West Philippine Sea?
Well, I cannot speak for the president, but siguro it's...
You were waiting for him to speak about the West Philippine Sea.
I think the situation has reached a point where it's best not to telegraph your punches anymore. No? Best to just keep quiet and just do it, sub rosa, beneath the radar screen. And I hope that's happening. I really hope it's happening.
And you're hoping that that is the mindset.
I'm hoping that that's the mindset because really, we cannot, as he said in the SONA, whatever problems we have, we cannot transfer that to push it to the next administration. We've got to face it now because if we don't face it now, a lot of people are going to die, a lot of people are going to bleed. And I don't want my children, my grandchildren to suffer.
Sinabi niyo po kanina ang Amerika in 1991 na wala yung ating security blanket, security umbrella, di ba? Pero ang Visiting Forces Agreement has allowed them to, sabi ng iba, it's actually basing daw dito sa Pilipinas. Pero that's just a technical term. Pero ngayon sinasabi na pabalik na raw ang Amerika dito by virtue of the same agreement. Tama lamang ba na sila ay magpalakas muli ng rito?
That's speculation. Actually, America's pivot to Asia means that they really see China as a major threat, to regional peace and development, and that's the reason why they're stitching a coalition stretching from the Indian Ocean, from India all the way to Australia. I think they have what they called it the Diamond. The Diamond Group or something like that, with the U.S., Japan, India, and Australia. And central to that, or within that diamond, would be
It's
ASEAN.
the West Philippine Sea.
Would be ASEAN, Vietnam, ourselves, perhaps Singapore, Malaysia, and who happen to also to be claimants and disputing certain territories there. But that is less of a problem among ourselves in ASEAN than it is when we confront China. So the direction in anticipation of that point in history or at that point in the future when core interests will clash, I think they're already anticipating that, so they're forming this coalition stretching from the Indian Ocean all the way down to the Western Pacific. And I think that we should be highly sensitive to these geopolitical movements because at some point, should anything untoward happen, we will be part of that defense chain. And we cannot be the weak link in that chain. Because a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And we cannot be that weakest link. Right? Now, and even if China is not a problem in the future, we should always have a strong Navy and an Air Force to protect our territorial integrity. In the history of the world, past opponents have become good friends. Look at America and Japan now. Look at us with the U.S. and Japan and Spain. Time heals wounds, and things change. So
Coalitions differ.
Coalitions change their structures and their groupings and members. So at some point, I anticipate that things will be back to normal again with China, right? And there will be new threats. And whatever those new threats are will require that we have a strong Air Force and Navy to protect our EEZ, our territorial integrity, and to uphold national honor.
Are you saying, if halimbawa, Congress will ask your opinion, syempre this is a matter of legislation, are you saying, sir, that it is time that we should bring back our security umbrella?
No, we're not saying that. We should be standing up on our own 2 feet. No,
but with the help of the U.S.
We should help ourselves, right? If our allies and friends want to help us, well, we welcome it. But we should be depending on ourselves to stand up on our own 2 feet. We have to rely on each other. Filipinos will have to rely on each other and trust each other to protect each other. Okay, that's incumbent. All right. Nobody else will protect us except ourselves. All right.
Are we in that direction? Is this government in that direction?
Well, I would like to see more rhetoric and action towards that, frankly, right? But perhaps they're distracted because this country has so many problems, all right? And they haven't gotten round to that mindset yet. But yes, we should be talking that way. We should be getting Filipinos to focus on this top national security agenda and to tell each other there's nobody else to defend this country except us ourselves. And we have to learn how to rely on each other.
Kayo po kanina, ito, binigay niyo sa akin ng pagpasok niyo dito sa studio. Pag ito sinuot, halimbawa, ng Pilipino, anong ibig sabihin nito? You're just part of a coalition or you are speaking as a Filipino, finally letting out your voice of, hey, what belongs to the Philippines belongs to the Philippines,
Yeah.
and I'm going to defend it.
Correct.
Is that the message?
You're speaking as a Filipino and as part of one big collective of Filipinos singing the same tune and giving the same message. All right? Stop what you're doing because it's unlawful and it's not peaceful. It's leading us to war. No, and that's not our way, and that's not the way it should be. The coalition is about unity in diversity. Okay. Our people, our race, it's so diverse. We have many different cultures, right? But we should be focused on one thing, right? Defending inang laya, inang bayan. Right? The times call for us to come to the defense of our country, of our territorial integrity, and upholding our honor, no? Because it's being trampled upon. Ginagawa tayo ng doormat, no? And any self-respecting nation should not allow that to happen. And we should be no less.
Secretary, panghuli po, sabi niyo ang China kaibigan. Kausapin niyo ang China ngayon. Kung ikaw ay kaibigan, anong dapat mong gawin sa amin na kinikilala kang kaibigan?
Well, two messages lang yan to the Chinese people. We are your friends. Hindi naman tayo makagalit mahaba yung ating kasaysayan na pagkakaibigan, no? Pero ang galit namin ay nasa pulisidad ng inyong pamalaan ngayon. Kasi for the past 20 years, wala nang ginawa kundi manggulo rito sa South China Sea, inaaga yung teritoryo namin, at ayaw naman i-prove yung mga claims ninyo sa wastong venue, which is ITLOS. No? Parehas naman tayong signatory dyan sa UNCLOS. No? At saka isang provision sa UNCLOS is, pag may territorial dispute, settle it sa ITLOS. Kaya dinala namin si ITLOS. Ayaw naman ninyo. Is that the right behavior of a permanent member of the UN Security Council? Is that the right behavior of a neighbor? Is that the right behavior of a country that wants to be the leader of the world? Hindi naman tama yun. Ang lumalabas sa ginagawa ninyo, what's coming out is that you want to be the next imperialist power. Hindi na pwede yun. Kasi kami mga Pilipino, dumaan na kami dyan. 500 years na yan
Spanish rule.
Of 500 years of imperial control, no? Spain, US, Japan. Dumaan na kami diyan. Alam na namin yung playbook na 'yan, no? So wag na ninyo kami pandaran. 'Yun ang message ko.
Secretary, marami pong salamat sa inyong panahon.
Okay, thank you.
Ang dati pong kalihim ng Interior and Local Government, ang aming nakasama, siya po ay isa sa mga convener ng West Philippine Sea Coalition, Secretary Rafael Alunan. Magbabalik po ang Ibalita Online, ilang saglit lamang.
Sikat siya na leading man noon. Nagmula sa sikat na love team. Pero nabighani ng isang non-showbiz girl. Sino kaya ang real-life leading lady ni Wawi Di Guzman? Imbitado tayong lahat sa kanilang kasal upang malaman. Wedding edition na ngayong Sabado sa programang punong-puno ng pagmamahal, ang living, loving, and all about family bonding moments.
As an organization, the Philippine National Police must continue to institute reforms at yan ang kanilang ginagawa sa kasalukuyan. Bagamat may mga kapulisan o iilang bahagi